Welcome everyone to the show, Combustible Elements, real talk for real people. Here we try to put different ideas and perspectives together in a pot, heat it up, and get an explosion of knowledge and understanding. We understand that problems can only be fixed starting from the bottom to the top, building a great foundation for change and improvement. I'm Big Mel, and I'm joined by Ruben, aka the Monarch, and Aaron, the Hitman. Let's get started. So, this topic is a tricky one. Everybody say church and state, separate church from the state. But are those topics really separated? I personally don't think so because I think religion dictates a lot of political decisions, a lot of political affiliations is because they can understand certain groups and it's based on religion. Now, we know this goes back for centuries, back to the Crusades, really, back to who has ownership of Jerusalem. You have your Jewish people, you have your Muslim people, and you have your Christians. Everybody has a religious investment in Jerusalem, but even now in 2020, religion does affect our decisions on state. Um, I'm going to start this topic off because I'm already talking, and I see it in the forms of we're in the middle of a depression. My idea of a depression. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and this country once again continuously makes its payments to Jerusalem, to the Jewish state one time, billions upon billions of dollars. They don't even disregard their own financial needs and worries to make these payments. So I tried to do research to find out the reason why they make these payments, other than the fact that they are allies, but I couldn't find any reasons for them to do that when I was trying to research the topic, which, I'm Mr. Conspiracy sometimes, and that doesn't sound good. It's like a suppression of information. Um, Even though that may be true, in 1947, when partition started, and the main proponent of partition was the British government because after World War II, a lot of territories they lost. They had control of a lot of places, and they started breaking it up. And before they did Jerusalem, I believe they did India. A lot of people don't know India, as far as the British were concerned, was one country, and then they broke it up, and then Pakistan and India became separated. So they broke it up by regions. The more religion was in this region, that they became Pakistan, which I think that's Muslim, and then India, I believe, is Hindu, but I could be wrong. They broke it up along religious barriers, and this was a contested area for many years, as we know. But it didn't make the situation better. It made it worse. Sometimes you got to fight it out to have a mutual respect for each other. And then, of course, we all know about the UN giving Jerusalem and those lands to the Jewish people and separating the Palestinians. But like I said, that area was contested for several centuries. And they just decided to break it up and give them the land and then give them backing for the land. So I personally don't think that politics and the state and religion are separate things. They're all one entity in a lot of cases, and it makes their decisions really easier in a sense. What do you think about this, Aaron? I
Um,
was long winded right now trying to get my points across.
no, it's cool.
Apologies.
I think that church and state are separated, but when it comes to showing the people, they make it that it's not separated. They make it look like that it's not separated. They make it look like that they're driven by uh most of the times it will be Christianity. Look makes it like their point of view is what we're driven by. But if you are driven by a Christianity perspective, then we wouldn't have war. We wouldn't be taking over countries. We wouldn't be having slavery. So in that aspect, you can't say that you have Christian views and you're driven by war. Like you're entering into wars, even I guess protecting yourself, but you will only be protecting yourself if the other people feel threatened and they start a war. I don't really see right now anybody starting a war with us, with the US. Like nobody is in a rush to start a war with us. So any war that we're in, I feel like that we started it. And that's because we want to take land or we want to take ownership of something which we don't really own anything. And God owns everything if you're looking at it from a Christian perspective. So I feel like that it is separate, but they just use they play on people's religion in order to get them to back them in the things that they do for our country and to other countries and things of that nature.
Ruben, what do you think about this? Aaron, I'm gonna come right back to you. I have like you see me writing, I got a whole list of stuff to come back at you at. Ruben, what do you think about this topic?
I mean, honestly, I don't really know much about as far as Israel being paid, and I mean, I hear about it, I've heard about it, but is it something I've ever researched? I can honestly say I haven't. I mean, this country was based off, allies and treaties and things like that. So if Israel got some type of treaty with America to where they say, yo, y'all got to make sure y'all pay us X amount for the next however many years, however that situation is set up. And that's just what it is because, this country has been known to make deals in order to stay in power for years with different nations. So if they're not making deals with one country, they breaking somebody else's deal. It's always some type of backdoor dealing happening. Um, you know, religion has been the reason of many wars for centuries. Um, that's I guess that's that. This would be no different. Their relationship. The U.S.'s relationship with Israel will be no different. They've destroyed countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, and use the fact that they're Muslim as a reason why they go after them. I know I have friends who are Palestinians who basically feel as though Israel's been stealing their lands for the last 100 plus years or whatever, and every time you turn around you see they're redoing the map or they're regrouping the map, and they're showing you less and less portions of other countries that are already there, and they're essentially erasing them off the map and just putting Israel there. What's behind it? I don't know. What's the purpose of it? Obviously, just stealing, but you're not allowed to say that. So I don't know exactly what the relationship between U.S. and Israel is, but should we probably pay more attention to it? More than likely, but unfortunately, when something doesn't directly affect you, it's hard for you to like truly be concerned about it. And in this particular situation, aside from the few people that a couple people that I do know who are Palestinian who are directly impacted by this, I myself, I don't deal with it on a daily basis or even on a weekly or monthly basis. So I haven't I haven't done my part to learn more about it.
Okay, so I got a list for you too, Monarch. Um, I'm going to start with Aaron first because I put his stuff down first. So I know he's been eagerly anticipating my stupid question because you know how I get stupid at times. So, Aaron, we understand that, well, I personally understand that your religion is forefront in your life. Um, I also, before I want to get into making points and counterpoints, that I want to apologize because I said the Jewish state when I should have just said Israel. So I apologize for that. I was rambling on. I should have addressed that nation, the way it is addressed. Thank you, Ruben. As soon as you opened your mouth, you made me correct my error. Um, so, Aaron, you said that a lot of wars is a non-Christian way. Um, Yes, if you go by the fundamental beliefs, which you would know more than me. But wars were fought over money, and slavery were involved because you said Christians wouldn't be promote slavery. And for thousands of years, other religions, slavery was a factor. And a lot of times, I think we forget that slavery was a factor because we didn't have any heavy machinery. You had to have some people do the work. And if you were conquered, they made you do the work and they took your stuff. So money and slavery did lead to a lot of wars, not religion. Um, would good Christians not have wars? And these are all questions for you. I want you to answer however in whatever order you want to. Would good Christians not have wars? Probably now because we more evolved, but a lot of times those wars were fought to spread that religion by quote unquote good Christians, Catholics, Lutherans, however they chose to engage their beliefs in the Bible, and it led to a lot of servitude too. So when you make up these points, are you talking present day one, or are you talking the history of the world, Aaron?
Okay, so would good Christians start wars or go into war? No, they wouldn't. If you're supposed to model yourself by who everybody looks up to in Christianity, which is Jesus, which is God, because God and Jesus is the same person. Um, no, Jesus got beat. Jesus got hung on a cross and killed, and he had the power to stop it because if Jesus was God in the flesh, then he had the ability to stop it, and he didn't fight back. He took his punishment, and it is what it is, and he died on the cross for our sins, basically. But he didn't start the war. He didn't finish the war. Like he just went through with the punishment. So no, like a good Christian wouldn't enter into a war. And you're not supposed to, my opinion, you're not supposed to force your religion on anybody. You're supposed to spread the good word, which is preaching about it, teaching about it, but you're not supposed to force anybody to take on your religion. You're not supposed to force anybody to love your God. When slavery started, which was, when they brought Africans over here, they forced Christianity onto Africans.
Stop 1 second. You said when slavery started, which is when they brought Africans here. That's not when slavery started, but
Well,
continue.
well, I meant in
I
America.
was going to jump all over that too, but we're going to let you finish.
No, no. Well, I meant that's not when it started. I meant, when they supposedly brought slaves over from Africa over to America, they forced the Africans into Christianity. Christianity was never an African religion.
They also forced the Africans into Islam also. But that's another sword. That's another story.
Yeah. So
Unless
like,
unless unless this is part of the topic. But go ahead.
well, Islam is a religion. So I mean, if you look at it that way, like nobody, like you're not supposed to, if it's about religion, you're not supposed to force anybody to take on your religion. Like that's not what religion is about. That's not what it's supposed to be about. That is a human thing that we are pushing onto other people because we want to push the religious agenda.
Well, just the pre Aaron's slavery start date when they started bringing Africans over and other cultures when they conquered the people. One of the ways that they controlled the people, they allowed them to worship any way they wanted to. When they wanted to like really put the squeeze on the people, give them no positive impact on their own culture, they took away their religious institutions. Most of the good people that, well, is there good people after you've been conquered, but most of the good system of governments that wanted to work with you because they had a need of it, even though they felt like they were superior, they allowed you to have your religion. So in a sense, the Romans would come over and say, we think we better than you. You worship any way you want, long as you understand that you underneath us, but we think we better than you. And a lot of times, this the idea of race, which is another conversation really got started by the church because people would say, you're this kind of person, you're that kind of person, but it was assumed that you all met. But when the church went into like the Middle East and they started expanding, they had to separate the people some kind of way. And it was like, no, they're this color because they believe this. But that's another conversation all in itself too. That's a long drawn on. Like, we got to research, pull your point. Let's sit down, talk for like 2 hours. That's a whole nother point. But I do have questions for Ruben because we got stuck on what Aaron was saying. And I do understand what he's saying. He's really saying, for what we know, if you were a good Christian, you would live in a positive way, and then you wouldn't force your beliefs on some people. But
that's the same thing for Islam too. If you're a good Muslim, you're also not gonna force Islam onto anybody, because it's not to be a Muslim is to be a good Muslim is essentially to submit to the will of God. So somebody that's submitting already, you can't force. So it's all one and the same when you talk. My opinion, when you talking about religion, whether you talking about Christianity or you talking about Islam, it's like both. If you really start comparing both religions, you start realizing it's really like two different sides of the same coin. When you pick whichever one you want to be the head or the tail, but as far as like the true Christians and the true people who follow Islam, like from the prayers of 5 times a day to the fasting to the way that they may dress, it's really very, very similar on both sides. That being said,
not just those two, or many other ones too.
Well, there are other ones too, but for me, those two are like the ones that mirror each other the most. I can think of different. If you look at an imam and a priest, they wear basically the same attire. If you look at a sister and a nun, as you may call it, in Catholicism, and you look at a woman in her Islam garb, they dress exactly the same way. Even down to the prayer beads that somebody in Islam may carry, and a prayer bead that a priest may carry, they're basically the same thing. The main thing is, Christians use a cross, and Islams don't use a cross. The Muslims don't use crosses, and Islam, they also don't worship any images of any kind. And in Christianity, the Bible tells you not to worship any images, but somehow you go to just about every Catholic church, you're gonna find a picture of Mary. You're gonna find a picture of Jesus, or who he's supposed to be look like, a blonde dude with blue hair and blue eyes who grew up in the Middle East. Hey, whatever. and that's just. And you also got a lot of these different saints that they've decided that they've added over the years. If you die, you did certain things, and you become a.
Oh, we lost Ruben for a second.
He muted out.
Now he does have a point about a lot of things being similar, but if you sit down and speak to a Jewish person, they'll tell you Jesus was a prophet, not the Son of God. So there are a lot of similarities in religion. I'm a Catholic, but I think our understanding of our religions are really centered around our beliefs or how we interpret them. I think in the end we'll find out that religion is more similarities than differences. We'll find out at the end, and we'll find out more than what we thought we knew. But that's really one of those topics, like I think you had, on your website, religion versus spirituality. that's another conversation for that.
Yeah, maybe we'll
The
have to
reason we
touch
were
on that.
talking about this was how religion affects decisions. One of the decisions when I brought up Israel was really when they did partition and they put Israel, the UN, granted that land to the Jews from the Exodus from Eastern Europe and Europe after World War II. Part of the reason I think that they gave that area to them wasn't because they felt like it was the greatest claim for them, but I think part of it was because they could negotiate with them better than they could Arabic nations and Muslim nations. Like they had a hard time negotiating Western powers because that's who really controlled the UN. They had a really hard time negotiating with these other countries that were religion backed. And when I say religion backed, like you had Iraq that was mostly Shiite, but then you had the Sunni ruling class. So you had real serious religious implications in politics. And I think their decision a lot of times were based on who would be better for us. Now, we all can do that. Don't get me wrong. But if that was your initial way of doing things, in a sense, doesn't that mean that you lessen the ability to work out problems with the other side? And then because these two places didn't work stuff out themselves, like even when you have wars and you kill each other, at some point there's a mutual respect. At some point, someone has to either submit or surrender. So when you have these situations and people fight it out, what you don't want the wars, you don't want people to die. There's a mutual respect, and then people kind of like bridge those divides. Not to say that they would convert, but they would say we could work this problem out a little bit better. Um, what do you think about that? Because I'm about to ramble on because you know me
So,
and I try to throw out my topics here.
so do you feel like that that's really a mutual respect or a mutual? I don't feel like that that's mutual respect. Like if I come over, that's like if I come over to your house and I beat you up and I'm like, yo, I want your house, and you like, I own this house, and I beat you up, and you know that you can't beat me, but you don't want me. I'm like, yo, if I have to keep beating you up, I'm gonna kill everybody in your house, but I'm gonna keep you alive because it's gonna be your fault. Either you do that or give up, and then we just all live together.
So you consider that being a war and not just being a terrorist. Now, if you want to sit down here and talk about being a terrorist, okay, you come over here and you beat me
Are,
up and you
are
take my
we
house.
are we not
Then
terrorists?
I'm going to come and kill everybody over at your house because you're not there. And then
Are,
you're going to say to yourself, maybe I shouldn't have did that. And somebody's going to say, I don't want that to happen to me, so maybe I shouldn't have did that.
we are
It's
all
like
we're all
there's
terrorists
an
though.
interaction on all this.
We're
They're
all
all wrong.
terrorists. Like we call everybody else terrorists, but we do the same thing they do, and then
Oh, we do.
we call
No,
them
we don't
terrorists.
do the same thing. We don't do the same thing they do.
How do you feel that?
We initiated like see. It's funny we talking about this right now because I was on my way back here yesterday on the plane. I was watching the movie American Sniper, I think it was. I didn't get to see all of it, but I seen like a good hour of it while I was on the plane ride. And it's funny watching it now because I didn't watch it when it first came out. And I don't know, you can watch that movie, and as an American, you can watch it and say, yo, these guys are bad guys. They're trying to kill Americans. And it's like, you know what? Screw these guys. You got to kill them. But on the same token, it's like, how do you, like, if you're invading my house, right? Even if my area where I live at is a war zone, I don't like that's still where I live. If I don't want to leave, I don't have to, and I shouldn't have to. Now you come into my house, in my neighborhood, where I grew up, where I built businesses, where I got everything going on, and you telling me, hey man, whoever's still around here is considered a threat, right? And I know you in your house, but you know, fuck your house. You got to get out, and if you don't get out, that means you over here trying to kill me, so I'm gonna kill you first. It's kind of I'm not gonna sit there and put a fault on the person that stayed back because they want to defend their castle. The same way, you know, if somebody in America was to stand back because why America was being invaded and they had the means, they had the weapons, they had the knowledge to fight back and say, hey man,
look, I don't care what y'all got going on, but I ain't leaving. I ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna stay pat. I got my guns. I got my ammo. I got enough firepower for me to do one last stand. That person will be considered a patriot.
Yeah, no. So look at it this way. Like I was saying, if I went over to Mel house and I enforced my will on him, and then I'm like, yo, if you don't submit, I'm killing everybody in your house. So Mel submits. But then his family, like, yo, like why we submit? We don't need to submit to him. And they go kind of behind Mel back to attack my house. Then I call them terrorists. Like, yo, why these terrorists came and attacked our house, but we attacked them first. We enforced our will on them first. So we went over there. Like Mel live in a better area than us. I'm in North Philly. He like up in the burbs. Like I'm trying to live over there. I want that part of the land. And then I go over there and I take over his household and we live in there, but I still got my house. And then his family like, yo, forget this. Like we're gonna go destroy his house because they in our space. And then when they do that, then I preach to my people, I preach to my family, like, yo, these terrorists came over here and they attacked us for no reason. Like all we doing is helping them out. We buying groceries for their house.
Now, you made an interesting point. Ruben made an interesting point. I'm gonna make two interesting points on this. One, when you sit down there and you bring up TV, I think the best example of how people become terrorists was a sci-fi show that I saw years ago. It was called Battlestar Galactica, but it was the second version, not the first version. And I think it was season 3. But in that show, the heroes were conquered. They were subjugated. And then they started doing things like they pretty much was in prison camps. They were like disrupting stuff, blowing stuff up, killing collaborators. They were doing whatever they did. If they blew something up and other people were around them, they were collaborators. They just got what they got. When you watch those 5 episodes, they didn't label them as being terrorists until like episode 3 or 4. And then you said to yourself, you were rooting for them. You were like, yo, I'm on that team because that's what you got to do. So they ended up becoming a terrorist. And it was just like a view on the human conditions, how if you're on the other side of the coin, what you said, Aaron, if you're on the other side of the coin, that's how you become that. The second point that I was making, which I think Ruben was going to make when he was talking about Israel and then Palestine, and he's talking about the settlements where they just decide to come out there, and if somebody do something they don't like in the country, they'll come out and they bulldoze the settlements. They'll let you build up your communities, your stores, or whatever, and then they'll come down with bulldozers and say we need more territory. And I do think that's wrong, but I think it's more so wrong because when the UN gave them that charter for that land in Israel, they put down other protections, not many, small, slight protections for the Palestinians. And all these disputes were supposed to be handled by talking as far as these are your land boundaries. Like they shouldn't be able to say, well, damn, this is our land. We need more space. We're going to come take your space because you were gifted the land. So you have to make do with that land. You don't just take somebody else's stuff because you feel like, oh, our economy is more robust. We're gathering more people. We think we can have more houses or better houses, and you're just going to come out there and bulldoze it. No, that's not right. It's not right for you to run to my house and do something, and then I go to your house and do something. We would like to say that religious-wise, spiritually-wise, we could resolve things by talking, but my point was when you fight, you do gain a mutual respect or you gain a healthy dose of fear, which is sometimes as good as a mutual respect because you fear what might happen later on in these consequences towards things. But we started.
Are we talking about fight or are we talking about war? Because fighting is when I think of fighting is, two people fight. Countries don't fight. Countries go to war. So if we're talking about fighting and that's just 2 men, you know what I mean, or maybe 2 women, or just maybe like a group of people. But in terms of countries are concerned, like you can't. you can't look at it the same way. Like you're not about to pull up, you know what I mean, guns and arms and knocking doors and things like that and call it a fight. That's a
you
war.
you have a good point. You have a very good point. We were talking as far as like disputes, but just a little caveat to throw in there. A lot of these wars happen that way. They in disputed territories, and then one group of people on this side decide that they should have this, and one group of people on the tip of that other country decide they should have that, and then those little battles, they start bringing in other people across that nation, and that's how the wars start. Usually, most wars start with small skirmishes. They don't start with somebody signing a declaration because we don't like what you did. It's usually something that brings them to that point, and is usually brought by citizens that they feel like they have to protect. So we have a few minutes left. So we're going to go into the part of whose fault is it? And this is another one of those topics where we can't really say whose fault is it. So I'm going to ask you two guys, do you think it's necessary to separate church from state, religion from politics? You got 2 minutes. Ruben, you might as well start first because I cut you off a minute ago.
Do I think it's necessary to separate church from state? Absolutely. I mean, we got this notion that, like, you know, we're either Christians or we good people. I think at the core, most of us are not good people. You know, like we try our best to be what society may consider good people, but overall, like we want for ourselves. We want to survive. We want to thrive. You want to do great for you and your family and your kind. If you think if you really want to be good overall or be fully good person, like you should want equal for everyone. And nobody wants equal for everyone. It's just not naturally. Nobody ever wants everything to be equally, because there's enough to share for everyone, but we're not good people. You know, we want more. All right, like, and it's okay. It's okay. But part of the wanting more and wanting to be great, that you know, wars and famines and things like that. Those are the consequences to that. That's my point of view.
Aaron, real quick.
Yeah, I'll keep
think
it
church
simple.
and state should be separated?
Yeah, you got to separate it because you're not. You're giving church a bad name when you keep it together and say that you're, you know, religious or, you know, you believe in God, and then you go and kill a whole bunch of people and try to justify it. There's really no way to justify that, period. It's like sheep and wolf clothing. The man doesn't make the suit. The suit doesn't make the man makes the suit. So you could wear the Christian suit all you want, but then you go over there and drop atomic bombs on people and kill a whole bunch of people and then say that you believe in God. It just doesn't add up. So yeah, you got to separate it.
Okay, in my opinion, you should separate church from state. We've always had a problem separating church from state. I don't care what the damn Constitution say. Before 1950, the census asked you what religion you were. So if they asked you what your religion you were on a national count of people, it was important. As far as a sheep in wolf's clothing, yes. If you use that as a means to go kill people, but what about those wars where you fight for those people that can't defend themselves? And that's another topic, but I'm just throwing it out there. Ruben made the point that we're not always good people, and you're right, we're flawed. That's the whole point of religion and evolving. We're flawed. We always want what we can't have. These are negative things that we knew about us as human beings since the beginning almost. And the point is to rise above that. I think that is what religion is supposed to take us, to rise above our flaws and to be better, to have a reason to be better. Church and state should be separated. Yes, of course. It should always be separated. Just like state and royalty should be separated. People should run countries, groups, the biggest group that can decide, as opposed to one singular person that has total autonomy. So yes, I believe church and state should be separated. I think we do a good job in this country, but we still use it. Even the Supreme Court appointees. Are you conservative? And then they ask your religious views. So it's a hard thing to do, but I think we do a great job trying to do it, trying to be better, and hopefully we will continue to be better. I want to thank everybody for joining us this week. I'm Big Mel. I'm here with Aaron the Hitman, Ruben the Monarch. We'll talk to you in a couple of days. Peace out.
Peace.
All right.